It's great.
Yeah. Well, and it's been fun, and it's nice to see, what it's doing, and that it has a space and a place, and just I feel like it's fun to play with other astrologers and our communities as
Yeah.
well, because that was the point, was to like create a community and then tend to that dang thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
that's the best use of like all that freaking Libra that I've got in my chart, that's for sure. So good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, because I know we've got tribe all around the globe, which I love so much. But wherever you are, whatever time it is, welcome back. And I am thrilled to bring Gordon back to the table. You know what? It's so funny too, because I was like, come back, we're going to do this Q&A, answer all these questions. And your video was so clear, so well, and explained in such depth that people were like, oh my God, I don't have a single question. And I was like, brilliant.
No, that's good. I mean, it's just one of the foundational things that, you don't want to get lost in the sauce per se, but you want to have these things and have them in a way that you can kind of digest it, because you can read. Yeah, I want you to feel those things that I talk about. Like, I don't want you to just say like, okay, I got these keywords and I know what the moon is. You're like, wait, it's not that simple. So I try to do that with all the planets so that people can have that foundation. So you can really go, I mean, the first chart you should be mastering is yourself. So I wanted people to understand that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, your class did just that. People were so clear. I listened back to it, of course, as well. And I'm just like, exactly what you said, being able to feel. That was the thing, like feeling through. And I have to tell you, this was like one of my favorite comments. In all of the comments that were down there, somebody put, listen, I just put it on and let Gordon talk. Like, I was like, that's right. I know you get a good vibration. Like, your energy is very good. It's very grounded. So in addition to great information, it was just very soothing.
Yeah, so that's actually what I'm looking to get into. I'm actually going to be doing more affirmation work coming up. And I actually want to start doing some series to put on YouTube that, help people to get anxiety, to work through the day, but to also be timeless, right? So a lot of my affirmation stuff is based on the astrology of the day or the week or the theme. However, it could, everybody can be going through different things. So I don't want to timestamp stuff. I want you to kind of listen to the message and see if it can resonate. And, I've been told that, I've had to de-escalate a lot of situations, and people say your voice is relaxing. So I'm like, let me use my voice to kind of help with that process, because even it's necessary. So I'm going to be of course, I'm going to still do my consultations, but when you look at my IG, you'll start seeing a lot more affirmation stuff coming forward.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I look forward to supporting that, because the ones that you're putting out, I love, and it's a moment to stop and reflect and be with yourself and be with the universe and see what's going on. So it's really, really lovely. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for coming back to the Academy.
This is a beautiful space. I'm so gracious to be invited. I'm so gracious to be a part of it, and whatever I can do to help. I'm fully in support of this. This is a brilliant movement that you put together.
Thank you. So you guys, if you are just tuning in and you have not had an opportunity to watch Gordon's class, The Introduction to Planets, I'll make sure that it is linked below this video. Or if you just can't wait, you can head over to the playlist that is on my homepage and click into that class, as well as others. And all of our teachers are coming back this year to do some Q&A, present a little bit extra for you to continue to sharpen your astrology knowledge and your skills, so that you can pull them out of your toolkit and really be with a consultation or be with your own astrology and use it. So we also have you've got some slides, some information to share with us today as well, right?
Yeah. So let me try to see if I can get this working
awesome.
properly.
And you guys, if you have questions, well, we've got Gordon here for the next 30 so minutes. If you've got questions, put them in the chat box, or leave them in the comment section down below this video if you're watching back later.
Yeah, so this was just something quickly I wanted to put together, because I wanted people to understand the importance of two of the planets that I feel on a day-to-day basis, you can probably really understand mostly, or understand about yourself, which is Moon and Mercury. let me just, yep. So just to reintroduce myself, I'm out of Charlotte. My website's The Unlikely Astrologer, and I consider myself more of, it feels like counseling, or feels like a good conversation when we have a meeting versus I'm not here to talk at you. I have a lot of, I treat the space without any type of ego, and I'm humble with the practice. So just want to make sure that you understand what I am looking to do. Or if you get involved with that. This was just a funny thing that I don't know why I thought this was really funny. So I'm telling my grandkids this is Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. So I just had and if you're old enough to know who these people are, like, you can just raise your hand. I am. So, but just kind of wanted to go a little bit in regards to the planets and energy, but also particularly the moon and Mercury. So I wanted you to kind of realize with the moon, can you hear me okay, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
sorry, cool. I'm in a trance. Don't worry, it's going well.
I just want to make sure it's not choppy or anything. But the main thing is understanding even the glyph, right? The glyph of you understanding exactly what the moon is representing. And the reason why I really wanted to talk about this is because I want you to look at this satellite dish to the right. The satellite dish to the right can be receiving information, but it also can be putting out information. And when you think of your emotions, it's things that you're receiving externally and things that you're also giving to people externally. So it's what you're internalizing and what you're also putting out. So when you think of emotions, again, just like the satellite dish, you cannot see the rays that it pushes. You cannot see the rays that it absorbs. I want you to be very conscious of what you're around and what you're digesting, because it can potentially be something that, if you're around energy, when you hear a lot of energy, think of it as the rays, right? Think of it as something you can't see. Again, it's a word that's being used a lot in the space, but I want you to understand what energy potentially means in regards to thoughts and emotions. And what you're hearing, you can be observing or can be absorbing without really understanding or really knowing that you're doing it, because it's rays that you can't see, these subliminal messages that get baked into your subconscious, or that deep emotional fiber of yourself, because of the constant bombardment of that. Or what you're saying, like what you're saying is such a powerful thing that if you are saying things subconsciously, and remember, this is internal and external, the things that you're saying to yourself. So I wanted you to look at this moon glyph to the left and understand the importance when you start to now look at Mercury. So if you look at Mercury, right, the glyph for Mercury, come on, let's work, please. Hold on.
The tech challenges.
Let me know if it popped over you. Too far. So you guys can see that? The Mercury glyph. Okay. Now remember, the moon, right, was the satellite dish. Remember, look at the top of Mercury. Like, that is your satellite dish to your brain stem. That's why I put this here. The emotions that you're getting externally, it's attached to your nervous system, i.e., listen, if a dog runs out on you, you feel that fight or flight. You feel your nerves. You feel your breathing tightening. You feel you're starting to sweat. You're starting to feel a surge of energy. You're starting to feel a heightened awareness of what's around you. That's what's important with understanding, like, how these two things interconnect. This top part is almost like the receiver of the external world on how you think. And when you think, it's going all the way throughout your body. It's not just a matter, and also remember, it's not just external, just like the moon when I talked about the satellite. It is internally what you're saying to yourself. What are you saying to yourself that might be degrading your value? What you're saying to yourself, even before you have an interview, I might not be good enough for this, and you might not, do the right thing. When you're reading a chart for somebody and you say, like, I'm not as good as Stormy, but I kind of like, hey, it starts to eat at your confidence in a way that you're not aware of. You're not aware that you cannot look like, the supermodel, which they don't even look like that. It's Photoshop. So what you're saying, you can't look like this person that you follow on IG because that's filters, right? But that is internally potentially beating yourself out down and taking away the nerves, the thoughts, the being that it's incredible. And there's a thing that I tell my son. I say, be careful what you say to yourself because it can potentially weaken the warrior within. It's a Japanese proverb. So I want you to kind of think of that in regards to what you message and tell to yourself, because in an easy world, right, or a simplistic world, emotions is just this. It's just emotion. It's just emojis. It's just the bottom of the keyboard. It's just, okay, I'm happy, right? So the moon is in Leo, even like moon's in Sagittarius. But no, it's not that simple. I'm sad, so the moon potentially is in Pluto or Saturn. Oh no, like it's way more than that. When you start to break down the interconnections of the aspects of these planets, right? You need the foundation of the planets, and then look at the aspect videos that Stormy has out in regards to. It's just brilliant. But then when you start to really assess what the emotions and the physical responses to what you're receiving and what you tell yourself, it's one of the most important parts of this astrological journey, the psychological journey, or the combination of the psychology and the physical plane. And it's very important of what you do. It's just like, you think it's a big deal, like listen to, when you work out, listen to Beethoven and listen to DMX, see which one gets you more pumped up. It's just the way that you can, you have to be aware of it as well, because again, there could be impulses, right? Like there's been many physical impulses that people go back and look and say, how did I think like that? Well, you weren't thinking per se. The nervous system was charging up maybe the lower regions, the Scorpio regions, and you had an impulse that potentially either can lead to a long-term effect or a short-term shame. You can also have a heightened ego and have the emotions of disrespect come into, tap into a early childhood fear, and all of a sudden you do something that you might get locked up for, like assault someone because you heard your father's voice in the thing that they said, and you never did it. So you end up doing an impulse. You have a nervous, like almost like a knee-jerk reaction, which knee-jerk reaction is actually that test that they do at the doctor, and that's your nerve. That's just, you don't have any control of that. So I want, again, for you really to understand. Again, I know this is a question and answer session, but I want you to really understand those planets, understand what relationships they have, right? Remember in the these are the two actors I'm talking about, but then use the aspects to see what other actors they're working with, so you can find a complete understanding of your emotional being. Understand that it's not a cage, right? It's not static. You have your progressions, your solar arcs, whatever you want to do, that you're going through and evolving in a good way, right? You're not dissolving, you should be evolving, right? So just really, when you start to break those things down, it can bring you to a place of peace, right? A place of understanding, like, all right, I know how I might react to this. Let me get myself away from that. Or I was having a time where I was like, why am I thinking like this? And I was like, I'm not listening to my affirmations. Like, I'm not doing this consciously. So some potentially old stuff started to creep back in. Like, we are dynamic beings and no one here is perfect. Please delete perfection. I am a rising Virgo, so I've had to delete perfection from
Am I?
I had to delete perfection from my vocabulary and use excellence and progression and scaling in. So understand that you have that same, be gentle with yourself in the same way. And I'm talking from my personal experience, not from just something that I'm reading. So wanted to talk a little bit. Actually, I'm sharing something with you guys. This is a big thing that's happening now. It's this Uranus North
Can
Node.
I ask you a question really quick before
Sure.
we look at this? Because this is going to be good and juicy, but I want to get it before we move on. But somebody is asking, do you feel like it's harder to filter the emotions and the reactions when you have a moon that is in a fixed sign or in certain modalities? What's your experience with that?
So I think that that's a great question. Again, I think it could be, again, especially I don't know the pain that was potentially attached with certain things. So that's a part that it's a discussion versus just, and I don't want you to lock yourself in. Like the biggest thing with astrology is, you know, don't lock yourself into. I have my moon in Aquarius, so I don't want to lock myself to say, hey, it's fixed, and guess what? I'm like this, and that's that. So I want you to understand that it's just one portion of nature. It's the earth, right? So it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It doesn't mean that um, everybody can find a fault with something. So somebody that has their um, moon and let's say an air sign might be like, I'm flighty, I'm all over the place because you're using that as a cage for a lack of growth. You're causing this to be in an anaerobic state versus an aerobic state where there's air and things flowing versus stagnant and um, lack of growth. So it potentially could, again, that's when you really start to dig in and say, like, where's the placements? What happened? What some transits that might have lit this up at a certain time. And because you have your ephemeris, you know how to use it. You're great at using it, guys. You could say, what was that event that happened there? Because as an astrologer, right, we go and I hate vagueness. Vagueness is a tool that people use in contracts to say, well, it doesn't say this, but it says that. As astrologers, we have to go to the date. What happened in March 14th, 2018, right, or the first week or two of that? So you do the same thing with yourself to say, okay, now that you've learned like these major transits and major things. So you say, hey, let me, hint, like when when Saturn had a major aspect with this, what date was that? Yeah. Okay. When it had an opposition, what was that? When it had a sextile, what happened? Now take those series of events and then you start to do forensics within yourself, not to go down a dark hole, but to say, like, that might be the event that's causing me to continue to act like this during that time. Because I can't potentially let go. And if I'm not able to let go, does that make sense? I want to make sure I'm answering that question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm tracking with you. Hopefully you're tracking as well, because it is like really having to get in there and see our own patterns, I think, and then look at the evolution of how we're showing up and the characteristics of those things. And it's like, oh, every time there's a sextile, I seem to show up like this and I don't enjoy the results, or the people around me don't, right? Because the sextile is great, but I might be coming at it sideways. So right. It's like just being a certain sign, being a certain element, being a certain modality. That's really hard to gauge. We really have to see ourselves, I think, on that evolutionary scale. And like you said, be specific as to when does that string get plucked for you like that. But also, I don't know if you have seen this, but same situation, same transit, same string is plucked, and the reaction or the expression is different, right? Growth.
Correct. And that's the biggest thing in regards to understanding. So a lot of us, unfortunately, will live inside our head in regards to past events that we wish why did we let ourselves taken advantage of this? Why did we not react in this way? And you end up doing like this proverbial loop of mental like stress, of you even getting like to the point where sometimes I would think of stuff and just get mad, like, why did I let that happen? You grew from that event and it won't happen again. So don't harp on it so that you can stop spending so much thoughts on that and moving forward to say, I learned that lesson. I forgive myself. Right? Because a lot of people don't forgive themselves. And then what it turns to is actually the emotion of shame. Yeah. So I want you to look at that and say, like, hey, I have a shame of this past event, but I'm going through it. I learned from it. I'm externally looking back at it like, whoa, maybe I didn't have the confidence to fight back or to talk back. But that's not the person that you are now. Like, these cycles are totally different. So I'll use it I like using farming analogies because I'm really into it. When you prep a land, right, you have your first season, like your tomatoes and your weeds and everything. You might not be pruning your tomatoes right. Your soil might not be right. All the weeds are right. And it's hell. But if you learn from it, season 2 will get better. Season 2 will not be perfect, but season 2 will be better. And then for season 7, people, you're going to look back and say, how the hell did I make that all that happen? Well, you didn't have 6 seasons under your belt. So think of it like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this Uranus North Node, because it's already in place. We're already living that energy, that vibration, and then we get to feel the real intensity as we close out July. And so what is this? What can we be thinking about looking at?
So it's funny that it all lined up in good, because if you look on the left, that's actually my chart. And I have Uranus and North Node conjunct in my natal chart, actually tightly conjunct by 4 degrees. So I was like, wow, look at this. I'm talking about the same thing, but in the opposite sign. And the funny thing is, I'll tell you about my experience that it was challenging growing up as regards to this. I'm Jamaican, very Jamaican. Like I come from a very, and Jamaican, if you don't know, is a very heavily Christian. Like we have the most churches per square mile, Guinness Book of World Records. So when you tell somebody that you're an astrologer, they're looking at you like, all right, Satan, like you are, and it is what it is, right? I don't knock it or any way, but I've always thought this way. And I had to kind of hide it because it wasn't seen as acceptable within my circle, my friends, my family, right? The moon representing, again, Cancer, the family. So that in turn was very challenging for me to push forward to say, what is my unique path that is what my parents would look at? Like, I give you an example. I told my dad I wanted to major in psychology because I wanted to be a therapist. And he was like, you can't make no money with that. Boy, like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, wait, like, I'm actually going to go to school. And he dismissed it. Like, they don't make no money, dismissed it. So with this being in this in Taurus, right, in regards to self-worth, inner being, inner love, where it hits you is where you should really look and say, like, can you make a strategic change? Now, most people look at Uranus, and I think of I always think of Saturn with it, because the old ruler of Aquarius was actually Saturn. So I think, especially with Taurus being there, like, to create that plan, right, the executable plan, not the dream, right, because the dream is one thing, right, but to have the tangible steps that you say, hey, I want to do this first month, I want to do this the second month, and I'm not going to beat myself up. I don't have to go fast, right? It's not bull in a china shop type of movement. It can be surprising, right? But if I'm proactive with how I want this to play out in whatever life area I want this to play out, it can really be a beautiful change that most people don't realize. And don't let age be the cage that you live in, because you can be I'm on the other side going towards 50. And, most people don't ever make a change at this point because they're really saying, I've done this for 20 years. This is all I know. Like, if you do that, you will not receive this, the wind of change that will push you. You have your sails down and your anchor down because you've mentally put yourself in and that's what Taurus, sometimes you can be stuck, right? Like, you can be in a rut. You can be, I'm scared to change. I'm scared because what's the worst that can happen? You go back to the old thing that you potentially were doing, or if you scale into it and do it in a strategic way, right, using that Earth type of sign, you don't have to quit your job, but you can do your side hustle on the side. And until it gets to a point that you're like, okay, and then having the tangible, right, Taurus type of numbers behind it, you're like, I need this to live. That equates to this amount of sessions, that equates to this amount of sales, because
very practical.
It has to be structured out. I give you an example. When I was at the farmer's market, a lot of guys didn't know how much they made because they didn't crunch their numbers. They didn't want to do the other side of it. They just want to say, I sold $1,000 worth of produce today. What's your profit?
Right.
That's the part that you're like, hey, and if it comes in a place, let's say like an 8th house, right, and you want to start a business, you want to have a partnership, you want to expect that internally from yourself. And you also want to expect that externally from your partners or whoever you're saying, like, do you understand the numbers? Like, are you, right. I had a friend of mine that wanted to grow peppers, and he was like, we could just go to Florida and set up like a greenhouse and manage it from here. I'm like, have you ever grown anything? because that is madness. Like that is a part that you were like, that can't happen. So, and especially, I mean, it's a wide conjunction. Like Stormy, what orb do you use for what's the widest orb you use for your
Widest is 7. No, that's not true. If it's a lunar thing, it's 10. But
okay.
on regular planets, I'm an orb snob. I really like 5.
It's funny. I am.
I'm an orb snob.
Like people don't understand. Like when they like it's a 12 orb, I'm like, I don't know. So
Right.
but again, even with this energy of Mars even being in Taurus, right? You can push forward and be confident that understand there's going to be those mistakes, right? You're going to bump your head, using that Mars type of energy, and push forward and say like mistakes is part of the growth. Like if I had a recording of Stormy's first reading and played it for her, she would cringe. She would just be like, "Oh my,
Oh yeah." Well, they're all on YouTube, so you can go back and watch and see what it's been.
Yeah, but also again, look at these again. I think that we have also the sextile to the midheaven. So again, really seeing how you're going to do this, and don't be scared to be external with it. It doesn't have to always be internal. Like really saying, I'm going to make a pivot, and just having that confidence of changing your pathway. Because a lot of the past, again, especially with this South Node being in Scorpio, it could be some anchors that are holding you back from the past. And if you really kind of take the time to, and they're anchors you can't see. Remember, when you look, we always talk about the water signs, right? So Scorpio to me is the deepest water sign. That's the sea floor, and that's where the anchors are, right? But you never see them; you just see the chain. So it's to say, okay, what am I afraid of? What did I feel vulnerable with before? Did I fail in the past? And I don't want to feel that again. That can stop your growth because you are just living in that past failure versus I'm alive. Today is a good day. And I have a new idea that I can dust myself off and kind of go from there. So really taking that energy of what this North Node and Uranus conjunction can do and applying it externally would be a great thing.
Absolutely. Taurus is an earth sign. I want to touch it, taste it, see it in a tangible form.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a beautiful thing too to remember. I think that Scorpio South Node is like I got to detach from the way I've been doing things, which means I'm going to have to be comfortable with some vulnerability in order to put this thing out here, to get this strategy going, to build this thing. And that's okay. I think that's a glorious piece of this conjunction. You know? And for me, it's like worked out in terms of having lots and lots of creative people, right? Because we're so good at being creative and we don't know our numbers. Like, I'm like, well, who is your content for? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm here for everybody. And I'm like, that's a lie. You're going to be exhausted if you're here for everybody. So getting the vulnerability of let's create Mars and Taurus, a strategy to get you there, which is gorgeous. There's freedom and discipline.
And I think also the pace, right? To say like, what pace can I sustain for the, not the 40 meter, but the 10,000 meter run, right? To say like I can do, example for a creator, I can do 1 video a week versus I want to do 4 a day, and you'd be like, that's good for 2 weeks, and you can be like, one, you're going to start looking at numbers, you're going to get discouraged, right? And then you're going to be like, I'm exhausted because I'm constantly. So think of what is a sustainable pace for you, right? Be realistic with what you have currently going on, but be diligent and say like, I'm going to commit, right? It's committing, right? And that's a big part of Scorpio. Again, I have a ton of Scorpio friends, and the lack of commitment usually gets them to, you get like a death stare, like go for it, Right. So, but really taking that time to really understand the two of them. So, I hope that answers. Any questions? Anybody have any questions?
No, we're just being here and being in it. But I feel like this has like been like the best, because I just really want people to take advantage of this particular aspect, and not just the aspect, but the timing right now in the world, where regardless of the age, regardless of what has happened, one, I do feel like there is a little bit more of a conscious willingness for people to go, oh, it's actually not you, it's me. I need to look at that, right? Like,
Right.
this is genuinely my pattern. It is really not Bob, right? Like, it's not Bob. It wasn't Frank. It wasn't Jane. Like, it
Right.
is solidly Stormy. So let's take a look at that. But also, technology has brought more of our stories out, so people can go, oh yeah, I'm afraid of that too, or oh yeah, I've suffered like that too, or I worried about that. And so it's made a little bit of relatable space, I think, for people to be able to grab onto this and get the resources that they need and break free from those patterns and kind of come forward a bit and create something sustainable. Taurus is legacy energy. You can create
And I
something
think
long term.
absolutely. And I really think that, again, what is the saying goes, like, there's one planet, but 7.53 billion worlds in it, right? That we all have our own world that we kind of really look and say, like, this has happened to somebody else.
Mhm.
This is somebody else has experienced something. Again, I don't want to minimize some potential challenging things, but a lot of the day-to-day things, that the doubts and the questions that you give yourself, and how do you answer that, or say, like, hey, I'm gonna give it a shot, and if I fail, cool. And most of the time when you do that, you'd be surprised, like, these guys aren't as smart as I thought they were, right? Like, I'm in a
Right.
room now where I'm like, wait, I thought you guys were doing three-dimensional math. Like, it's not that. It's just, I thought I didn't belong here. And that
Yes.
was an internal anchor that I kept upon myself, that now I'm like, no, it's just like somebody applying for a job and looking at the job description. Like, I can't do that one thing. You can do the 99 things, but you looked at the one or two
The
things you
one.
couldn't do and was like, all right, I can't apply for that job. No, go and say, like, I'm applying for that, or I can't start that business. Like, make it that you're scalable, that you can get it sorted out, or what makes me happy. It doesn't have to be only a trip to Bali, right? It doesn't have to become a $20,000 vacation. It could be like, what can I do on a daily basis that is just for me, that I take 20 minutes, that can balance out things, right? In regards to soothing and believing in yourself and talking to yourself, like all those Taurian type of things as well. Apply those different things. Like, I give an example, like stretching, like, as simple as it is, as quick as you could do it everywhere. It's the consistency of stretching that makes it effective, not you just doing it one time. So think of it as that
Right.
mental elasticity for your mind is also in your body. So I hope that makes sense.
It makes tons of sense. I'm vibing with you. I'm resonating with you. I feel like there's just a whole Chiron retrograde today is helping. I think all of us go back to the shadow spot and be like, whoa, hold on. What is this story back here? And in collaboration with the rest of the energies of today, I feel like this more than answered the question and left us a little space here. So we're going to wrap up in a minute, but I'm wondering, this is impromptu, but do you have a little like mini affirmation you could leave us with? Because yours are incredible. They're
Oh
absolutely.
boy, you put me on the spot.
I know. I'm like, just whip out your magic right now, please.
No, I want everybody to kind of just, take it all in and say, like, listen, I am empowered enough to execute on my ideas. I have everything that I need to execute on my ideas. Whatever I don't have, I will learn along the way, but I will not let the things that I don't know become the blockers for me to not move forward initially, not to take that path of, to go to the end of the branch to get the fruit because I'm scared. I'm stuck at the base of the tree. Take the time to really map out what you want. Think of what makes you happy, what makes you unique, and take the time to map it out. Now, don't take forever, but take the time to map out what you want and push forward and give yourself an ample amount of time. Rome was not built in a day. The universe was not built in a day. Take your time to give yourself time to really, move those actions forward, and you can do it. And you have to tell yourself, I can do this every day. Tell yourself, I am worthy to do this every day. Tell yourself, I am enough to get this done every single day, and you'll get it done.
Mm. Thank you.
You put me on the spot.
And that was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. And I just want to thank you again for coming back. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your space and your energy with us. It's just such a joy.
No, again, I'm always happy to help. I enjoy the space, and I appreciate you providing the space to me to be able to share this. So thank you so much, Stormy. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And again, you guys, I will make sure that all of Gordon's links, his information is in the description box down below. So you can go over and check him out, follow those affirmations on Instagram, get into the rest, like, as you're into some other things as well. And so there could be a whole other tribe that's available. So I'll just make a space so you guys can connect with Gordon if that's what you're into. And we will see you. I'm sure there's going to be something else. We'll do
I hope to be around for some more. I appreciate it. And again, I have some much more to give. And again, if there's any space that people need challenge or have challenges understanding, let's make that the topic, because if it was challenging to you, it probably was challenging to me and to Stormy. So we're here to help each other.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, I love you a ton, and I look forward to seeing you in August, where we are going to have Michael Bartlett coming back, and we are also going to have Catherine Goshen coming back. So I'll make sure you have links for those videos, but we're going to review retrograde planets in the sky and in the chart, and the sun-moon blends and how we work with those. So I love you guys, and we will see you in our next live video.